It was a sunny morning in a lakeside park in the small town of Maplewood, USA. Children laughed, chasing colorful kites, while adults enjoyed the warmth of the sun on their picnics. In the midst of this idyllic scene, a man with a worn appearance, but with attentive eyes, watched from afar. His name was Jake, a homeless man who had been wandering the city streets for months, carrying his few belongings in a worn-out backpack. Jake didn't go through difficulties for nothing. His life had been marked by tragedies and bad choices, but he still had a kind heart. He used to spend his days looking for food and shelter, but on that particular day, something made him stay in the park longer. The sound of children's laughter and the warmth of the sun reminded him of better times, when he had a family and a home. As he watched, Jake noticed a small child, a boy with bright blonde hair, run towards the lake. The boy was so focused on his game that he didn't realize the danger ahead. In an instant, he slipped and fell into the water. Panic took over the park. Without thinking twice, Jake threw himself into the freezing water. He swam with determination, pulling the boy to the surface and dragging him to shore, where the child's horrified parents rushed to help them. The crowd gathered, and the boy, although scared, was safe. The applause echoed as the boy's mother, tears in her eyes, thanked Jake. "You are a hero," she exclaimed, holding her son tight to her chest. But Jake didn't feel like a hero. He just wanted to do the right thing. As attention turned to the boy and his family, Jake walked away, feeling a little relieved, but also still invisible. However, fate had other surprises in store for him. Over the next few days, Jake continued to visit the park, but now with a new purpose. He wanted to make sure the lake was safe for children. He began cleaning the space, removing debris, and talking to parents about how to keep their children safe. The boy he had saved, named Tommy, began approaching him, bringing him snacks and asking curious questions about his life. What Jake didn't know was that Tommy's mother, Sarah, had secrets of her own. A week after the rescue, she decided to meet Jake. During the conversation, she revealed that Tommy had been adopted and that his biological parents were people she knew. Jake's heart stopped for a moment. He asked her to continue. Tommy's parents died in an accident a few years ago. They were longtime friends of a man named David, Sarah said hesitantly. "David, was that you?" Jake felt a rush of emotions. He had lost contact with his son after the separation and was unaware that he had been adopted again. What he thought was just a lost life now turned into a second chance. "Are you his father?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Jake took a deep breath, remembering everything that had happened. He had been a present father until his life fell apart. Now, faced with the possibility of reuniting with her son, her heart was filled with hope. "Yes, it's me," Jake replied, his voice cracking. "I'm David." The two talked for hours, and Sarah, realizing Jake's sincerity and determination, decided to give him a chance. She knew he had changed. Jake began visiting Tommy regularly and slowly rebuilt a relationship with his son. David, formerly known as Jake, found himself immersed in a new routine. The revelation that he was Tommy's biological father had transformed his life in ways he could never have imagined. Now he was trying to rebuild a relationship with his son, something that felt both incredibly rewarding and excruciatingly difficult. The park, once a place of solitude for David, had now become the setting for his new efforts to reconnect with Tommy. He started to visit the place more frequently, often taking Tommy for walks, always watching the boy with a mix of longing and hope. Visits to the park also included conversations with Sarah, who began to become an important ally on her journey. One afternoon, while Tommy and David were sitting on a park bench, Tommy pulled a photo album out of the backpack he always carried. It was a collection of images from his life before he was adopted, a life David barely knew. Tommy flipped through the album excitedly, showing photos of his old family, including images of his biological parents. David watched each image with a heavy heart. There was a silent pain in his eyes, mixed with the joy of finally seeing the faces of the people he had lost so long ago. He tried to hide his emotion, but it was impossible not to feel a deep sadness when he saw what his life could have been, if things had turned out differently. "I remember these people," David said, his voice shaking. "I remember their smile. They were my friends." Tommy, who seemed to notice the sadness on David's face, leaned in closer. "Did you know about them before, Dad?" he asked, his voice full of curiosity. David hesitated before responding. "I knew them. They were part of my life, but unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to be as present in their lives as I wanted to be." The boy, not knowing much about his father's pain, simply offered a comforting smile. "Now you are here, and that's what matters." These words were a balm for David, but they also reminded him of the great responsibility he had at hand. He wasn't just trying to be a present father. He was fighting the ghosts of the past and trying to find a path to redemption. As the days passed, he became more dedicated to his new mission, including volunteering at the park and meeting Tommy regularly to create memories that would replace the ones he had lost. Sarah, who watched David's transformation, offered him constant support. She knew David was trying hard to overcome his pain and rebuild his life. Her empathy and understanding were key in helping David open up and face his fears. She often encouraged him to share more about his past, and gradually David began to talk more about his memories, his failures, and his regrets. The bond between David and Tommy grew stronger every day, but David knew the road to redemption and forgiveness would be long and full of challenges. Time spent with Tommy was precious, and David was determined not to let this opportunity go to waste. He was building a new life for himself and his son, one step at a time, with hope and determination guiding his paths. As the months passed, David's life began to stabilize. He had found a small job at a community center, where he worked during the week. Although the work was modest, he was grateful to have a source of income and a way to contribute to the community. Tommy and Sarah continued to be part of his life, and their relationship grew stronger every day. However, life was not without its challenges. David struggled to balance his new job and his commitments to Tommy. There were days when he felt overwhelmed and insecure about his ability to be a good father. Furthermore, financial difficulties still haunted him, and he feared that he might fail to provide a better life for his son. One night, while David was at home, he received a call from Sarah. She seemed worried and asked to meet him urgently. When David arrived at Sarah's house, he found her visibly shaken. She had received disturbing news from a former acquaintance who was threatening to expose details about David's past. "He's saying that you have a dirty past, and that he's going to make it public if you don't pay a significant sum," Sarah explained, her voice full of concern. "I don't know what to do, David. Tommy is starting to realize something isn't right." David felt a knot in his stomach. He knew his past was full of mistakes and regrets, but he didn't have the money to face the threat. However, he couldn't let this affect his relationship with Tommy. "I'll face it," said David, with renewed determination. "I will not let anyone destroy what I built with so much effort. I will find a way to resolve this." David found himself in a fight against time to protect his new life and his relationship with Tommy. He began seeking legal help and exploring ways to deal with the blackmail. Meanwhile, Tommy and Sarah continued to offer unwavering support. David's determination was fueled by his desire to ensure his son had a safe and happy life. With Sarah's help and the support of some friends he made along the way, David was able to gather enough resources to face the threat from the past. He met with a lawyer and began the process of protecting his identity and his new beginning. The legal battle was long and tiring, but David was determined to fight until the end. During this time, Tommy was closer to David than ever before. He watched his father's struggle with admiration and understanding. David tried hard to maintain a calm, positive facade in front of his son, but the nights were lonely and filled with anxiety. Sarah's constant support and Tommy's presence were fundamental to David's resilience. He knew he was not alone in this fight, and this gave him the strength to face each challenge that came his way. He also realized that despite the difficulties, there was something valuable in the way Tommy and Sarah were by his side, offering unconditional love and support. As the legal process progressed, David was able to find a way to overcome the crisis. He established an agreement that protected his identity and allowed him to move forward without the weight of the past constantly threatening his new life. Finally, he can breathe a sigh of relief and start focusing on the future. David began to dedicate more time to Tommy and build new memories together. They traveled to new places, explored common hobbies, and enjoyed every moment as a family. Their relationship, now solid and full of love, was finally blossoming. Sarah continued to play an important role in David and Tommy's lives, and the three formed a bond that seemed unbreakable. Life was far from perfect, but David had found new hope and a reason to move forward. He was determined to make the most of every day with his son and build a better future for them both. The sun shone softly over Maplewood Park, now a place full of fond memories and new beginnings for David, Tommy, and Sarah. The park, which was once the scene of an unexpected act of bravery, was now a place of celebration and joy for the little family. David and Tommy were sitting by the lake, throwing pebbles into the water and laughing together. The scars from the past were still there, but life had given them a chance to start over. David looked at Tommy with a smile on his face, feeling a deep gratitude for having the opportunity to be part of his son's life again. Sarah arrived with a prepared picnic, and the three spent a pleasant afternoon together, celebrating the new phase of their lives. Sarah's presence as a friend and constant support had been fundamental to David's recovery and the formation of a new family. The gentle wind and the sound of laughter echoing through the park were a constant reminder that, even in the most difficult situations, love and hope can triumph. David knew the road ahead could still have challenges, but he was ready to face them with courage and determination. As the sun began to set, David and Tommy walked through the park together, side by side, with the certainty that they were building a better and more promising future. The story of a homeless man who saved a child and found his own redemption had been transformed into a story of love, resilience, and new beginnings. And in the end, David had discovered that even in the shadows, light can shine brightly.